Big statement coming out of Iran. Iran says all American bases are in our grasp. U.S. base in Bahrain has been hit by Iranian missiles. Kuwait has been targeted. United Arab Emirates. Apparently, there's been an interception. Iran says all U.S. bases are within our reach. The missiles did not stop at Israel's borders. That is the sentence that changes everything about what happened on February 28, 2026, when Iran launched its retaliatory ballistic missile campaign following the American and Israeli opening strikes on Tehran. The world expected Iran to fire at Israel. It expected the Houthis in Yemen to fire at Israel. It expected the IRGC to launch its long-promised crushing response at the country that had just bombed its presidential compound and its supreme leader's office district. What the world did not expect, or what it perhaps should have expected, but hoped it would not see, was Iran simultaneously firing ballistic missiles at the sovereign territory of Qatar, at the sovereign territory of the United Arab Emirates, at Bahrain, at Kuwait, at American military bases embedded inside countries that are not combatants in this war, countries that have no military alliance with Israel, countries that in some cases are actively hosting American diplomatic personnel, engaged in the very negotiations that Iran itself claims it wanted to succeed. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps confirmed it publicly and without apology. In a statement released through Fars news agency, the IRGC announced that it had targeted for American military installations across the Gulf simultaneously. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest American military installation in the entire Middle East. Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates, the critical U.S. Air Force hub housing approximately 3,000 American service personnel. Al Suwait, and the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, the nerve center of American naval power across the entire Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Oman. 4 countries, 4 American bases. 1 coordinated salvo launched simultaneously with a ballistic missile barrage aimed at Israeli population centers. This is the most significant expansion of the Iran-Israel war since the conflict began. And to understand why, you have to understand exactly what Qatar and the UAE are, what they represent to Iran, and why striking them on this morning crosses a threshold that no amount of military framing can fully rationalize. Let me begin with Qatar because Qatar is the country where the full absurdity of this moment is most concentrated. Al Udeid Air Base sits southwest of the Qatari capital, Doha. It is not a small installation. It is the forward headquarters of United States Central Command, CENTCOM, the combatant command that oversees all American military operations across the Middle East. It hosts the Air Operations Center that coordinates all U.S. air power in the region. It houses F-15 fighters, tanker aircraft, surveillance planes, and the logistics infrastructure that makes American military power projection in the Middle East possible. At any given moment, there are between 10,000 and 12,000 American military personnel at Al Udeid. It is in every meaningful strategic sense the brain of the American military machine in the region. Qatar hosts aloud and Qatar simultaneously is the country that has spent the past several weeks hosting the diplomatic back channel that American Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araqi have used to negotiate across. Qatar hosts American military power on the largest scale anywhere in the Middle East, and Qatar has been simultaneously one of the few Arab states maintaining civil and functional relationships with Iran at the diplomatic level. Qatar is not a combatant in this conflict. Qatar has no military agreement with Israel. Qatar has not participated in any strike on Iran. Qatar has been hosting the conversations that both sides claimed they wanted to have, and Iran fired ballistic missiles at Qatari soil Anyway, the Qatar Defense Ministry confirmed what happened with a statement that was simultaneously defiant and diplomatic. Quote, "The Ministry of Defense confirms that the threat was dealt with immediately upon detection in accordance with the pre-approved security plan, and that all missiles were intercepted before reaching Qatari territory. Qatar's Patriot missile defense batteries operated in coordination with American forces, intercepted the incoming Iranian missiles. The intercept worked. The missiles did not reach their physical targets. But here is what the intercept did not neutralize." The Qatari Foreign Ministry then released a second statement, one that carried language that Qatar does not use lightly toward any country. The state of Qatar, the statement read, strongly condemns the attack that targeted Al Udeid Air Base by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. "We consider this a flagrant violation of the sovereignty of the state of Qatar, its airspace, international law, and the United Nations Charter." And then the sentence that defines what comes next. "We affirm that Qatar reserves the right to respond directly in a manner equivalent with the nature and scale of this brazen aggression in line with international law." Qatar is threatening Iran directly. Qatar, which maintains full diplomatic relations with Iran, which hosts Hamas political leadership, which has maintained neutrality as a mediating state through multiple rounds of this conflict, is now formally reserving the right to respond to Iran's attack. That is not diplomatic boilerplate. That is a statement of intent drafted in the immediate aftermath of ballistic missiles entering Qatari airspace. Now, let me walk you through the United Arab Emirates because the UAE situation carries its own distinct dimension. Explosions were reported in Abu Dhabi, the UAE capital, confirmed by AFP correspondents on the ground. Explosions were then separately reported in Dubai. Multiple reports from residents across Abu Dhabi and Dubai heard the detonations, and video of UAE air defense interceptors firing appeared on social media almost immediately. Iran's IRGC confirmed it had targeted Al Dhafra Air Base located south of Abu Dhabi. Al Dhafra is home to the United States Air Force's 380th Air Expeditionary Wing. It houses fighters, strike aircraft, reconnaissance platforms, drone systems, tanker aircraft, and fuel and ammunition depots. It is a critical American air power hub, and it is co-located with and shared by the UAE Air Force. The United Arab Emirates closed its airspace, not a partial closure, not a temporary rerouting announcement, but an immediate emergency airspace shutdown across the country, described by UAE authorities as a temporary and partial closure, as an exceptional precautionary measure amid regional security concerns. The U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi issued an emergency shelter-in-place directive for all embassy staff. The U.S. Consulate in Dubai issued the same order for all consular personnel. American citizens across the UAE were formally warned by embassy communications to find secure locations, maintain supplies of food, water, and medication, keep phones charged, and monitor local media. What this means in practice is that the United Arab Emirates, one of the most economically consequential countries in the Middle East, a country with a $420 billion annual GDP, a country that hosts the world's busiest international airport in Dubai, a country that processes trillions of dollars of global trade flows annually, was in emergency lockdown. Air Arabia canceled all flights to Iran, Iraq, and affected regional routes. Fly Dubai canceled flights to Tehran, Mashhad, and Tel Aviv. Hamad International Airport, one of the busiest transit hubs in the world, diverted and canceled flights as Qatari airspace was placed under effective combat conditions. Let me be precise about what Iran did this morning because the precision matters. Iran did not accidentally fire missiles toward Qatar and the UAE while targeting something else. The IRGC announced the specific targets by name: Al-Udeid, Al-Dhafra, Al-Salem, the Fifth Fleet. These are not mistakes in targeting data. These are deliberate selections from an IRGC target list that was developed over years of contingency planning for exactly this scenario. Iran looked at the map of American military bases across the Gulf and systematically assigned ballistic missiles to each one. And there's a critical difference between what Iran did this morning and what Iran did in June 2025, the last time Iranian missiles headed toward Gulf Arab territory. In June, when Iran fired at Al-Udeid in retaliation for American strikes on its nuclear facilities, Iran gave advanced warning to Qatar before the missiles launched.